Welcome. Thanks everybody for coming. I'm Michelle Braun from Friends of the Winooski River, and we are managing this project on behalf of John and Megan. Would you all like to say anything to start out?
All good.
Okay, so I have a short presentation to start with about the dam, which you are all familiar with. I'm going to introduce Friends of the Winooski River and then talk about how dam removal and floodplain restoration projects generally work. Talk about the work that we have done so far on this project. And then I'm going to turn it over to Roy Schiff and Jessica Luizos from SLR Engineers, who are going to present the preliminary design. And then we're going to talk about where the process goes from here, what the future steps are. And then we'll have time for questions and answers at the end. And also, you know, this, as you'll hear, it's a pretty long process. And so if you have questions that come up in the future, you can feel free to contact me with any questions. We realize this is, you know, that the pond is definitely an aesthetic focal point of the village, and that this is a big change that we're proposing. So we want to make sure that everybody understands how it's going to work. So as I said, I'm the executive director of Friends of the Winooski River, and we are a private nonprofit watershed organization that has been around for more than 25 years, working on clean water and habitat enhancement. The Winooski River watershed is 1,000 square miles. That's all of the land that drains to the Winooski River. The river's 90 miles long and runs from Cabot all the way to Lake Champlain. And we are up here on the Kingsbury branch. So we have 3 programs. We have an education and outreach program where we provide resources for landowners. We support volunteer water quality monitoring, and we do a lot of educational workshop kind of stuff. We do restoration work like river cleanups and tree planting and monitoring and maintenance of our restoration sites and management of invasive plants. And we also want to support people enjoying rivers. So we work on improving public access areas. We host paddling events, and we have an annual dinner to bring folks together. This year, we are adding a volunteer picnic in September. So it's a fun organization because we have, it's a way for anybody in the watershed to get involved. You know, it's not a government organization, it's a citizens group. So a big thing that we do is plant native trees and shrubs, and in the last 20 years we've planted over 40,000 trees and shrubs in 19 towns on 125 acres, largely with volunteers, including these cute Cub Scouts. Here's an example of a planting site that we did on a floodplain restoration project that was designed by SLR. And you see the photo on the right is after the land was reshaped, as it will be here. And a few years later, the image on the left, where we have kind of a wildflower meadow on the left with a mowed path through it, and then there's more trees and shrubs on the right with the river beyond those trees and shrubs. Some of the priority challenges in our watershed are phosphorus, which is a nutrient that helps plants grow, which is great, except when it gets to Lake Champlain and it helps algae blooms grow. Sediment, which is a problem in a couple different ways. It transports phosphorus because phosphorus sticks to soil particles. But the sediment itself is a problem because it can clog infrastructure, worsen erosion by like scouring stream banks, and it can smother stream beds, which is bad for the food chain. And then connectivity, which is one thing that we're here to talk about today, which is rivers that are disconnected from their floodplains by development or other kind of human-driven changes, and then fish populations that are disconnected by barriers like dams and poorly designed culverts. So this is a culvert project that we did phased in 2023. And this project was started by Friends of the Mad River, and we helped with the getting this project done when they went through a leadership transition. But you can see on the left side, the before picture, that culvert is lifted up. So fish and amphibians and turtles, they can't get upstream. Also, you can see it's quite small. And then after, the new culvert on the right has an open bottom with a natural stream bed, and so everybody can go up and down the stream. And this was a really cool project because this stream comes down from the Green Mountain National Forest. So it means that brook trout, cold water fish, Vermont state fish, can now go all the way up to the protected cold headwaters in the National Forest. And we finished this project in 23. The Mad River Valley flooded terribly in 24, but German Flats Road stayed open. This culvert did well, so.
We're gonna do that.
Yeah. So on dam removal, we have completed one dam removal, the Camp Weacowie Dam in Northfield. We're working on Jockey Hollow Dam in Barrytown, which we hope will be coming out starting next month. The Habep Dam and Brooklyn Street Dam in Barry City. Brooklyn Street may happen this year, I hope. This dam, East Calais Mill, Old Batchelder Mill in Plainfield, Clark Sawmill in Cabot, and then two others in the Winooski watershed, the Hands Mill Dam and Rouleau Pond Dam Hands Mill Dam is completed now by the Conservation District, and Rouleau Pond Dam is in the works by the NRC. All of the organizations that work together on dam removal, work together through the Vermont Dam Task Force so that we're able to learn from each other and share our experiences. So why are we all working on dam removal? There are a lot of benefits of dam removal. We have over 150 dams in the Winooski watershed. 3 of them provide flood storage. A handful of them generate electricity, and otherwise the rest don't serve any purpose any longer. Most of them are, 100 years old or more and not in good condition, not safe. So it makes our communities safer to remove them. It also lowers flood elevations by removing them, as Jessica and Roy will describe for you. It improves habitat for aquatic life, and it opens miles of streams up for passage into the colder headwaters, which is really important for our cold water fish species as our summers are getting warmer. It's pretty warm this summer. So in 2023, for anyone who didn't get a chance to get right close to the situation, this is the chasm that opened up in Steve's backyard, and you see the pond coming out at the base of the wall there. Clark Sawmill Dam in Cabot is one that we have been trying to work on for a long time, but the landowner wasn't keen to have it out because he thought maybe he could use it to generate electricity. But in 2023, it came out on its own, uncontrolled dam failure. And you can see what happened. I don't know how well you can see it because the light situation kind of cutting across there. But what happened is that the sediment that was built up behind the dam all pulled out with the river, and the whole stream bank along there dropped down. So those homes along the river now have a cliff in their backyard. I think when people think of dam failure, they often think of the downstream impact of that, which is real, but there's also an upstream impact, which is this kind of bank destabilization. So, when we do a dam removal project, it's a big project, right? So there are a lot of people involved. Friends of the Winooski River serves as the project manager for the project. And that means that we coordinate the whole thing from start to finish. We raise the funds, we hire the contractors, and we oversee the process to make sure that it all goes as smoothly as we can help it go. Another really important role are the engineers, who you'll hear from in a minute, because they have to design the project, because I can't just come out with a machine. I will say the first time I came to look at this dam, John was looking behind me going, "Where's your machine?" You know? But the state takes these projects very, very seriously, especially because of those, the impacts we know of an uncontrolled release. So we have to design these carefully, and that is where the engineers come in. And then the contractors will bring the machines. And so we'll do a competitive bid process to procure contractors, just like for any infrastructure project. And then community members, which is you all, sometimes the community's not that interested, sometimes they're very interested. And so that's part of my job, is making sure that to the extent the community's interested, they're able to get all of their questions answered and concerns addressed. And then state and federal agency partners are also really important, because we need about a gajillion permits to do this work. We need wetlands permits, state stream alteration permits. Sometimes we need a dam order. Sometimes we need an Act 250 permit. We need an Army Corps of Engineers permit. We need historic preservation clearance. We need wetlands clearance. I'm probably forgetting. Oh, endangered species clearance.
Does
So
God get involved in this, or
does what?
does God get involved? Everybody else?
Probably. So the projects go through 4 phases. The first is project development, where we kind of get all the pieces lined up to say, is this actually a project, and can we actually do it? And then the second phase is to design the project, which is primarily the engineering work, and then the involvement from the community and the regulators and the funders. And then the third phase is the actual construction. And then the last phase is project monitoring. We're required by our permits to come back and monitor the site for 5 years after we finish, to make sure that the vegetation is establishing and surviving, and the stream channel is behaving the way we want it to, and so forth.
Where are we now?
Where are we now? Funny you should ask. So we have finished, we've gotten through phase 1. John and Megan decided that the best path for them was to remove the dam. And it is they own the dam, it is their decision. So then Friends of the Winooski contracted with SLR to provide a feasibility study. And while they were working on the feasibility study, we also raised funds to complete the final design, and SLR is now under contract to complete the final design.
What was that again? Stanford?
Engineers.
Okay.
So the feasibility study was complete. We now have a preliminary design completed this spring. So that puts us kind of in the middle of phase 2. We submitted a hazard mitigation grant program application, which is FEMA funding, to both remove the dam and replace the bridge. That is now an alternate project. It wasn't one of the top projects that was definitely funded, but it was submitted to FEMA as an alternate. So as, if some of the other things submitted to hazard mitigation don't move through, or we are expecting to get a little bit more hazard mitigation funding, it could get funded that way.
You
But-
mean both the bridge and the dam, or
Together as one project,
is it that at this point it's both?
yes.
Quick question, what, are they gonna raise the bridge, or how are they gonna, what are they gonna do to the bridge?
We'll get there.
Okay.
We'll get there. That's okay. Okay, and I'm going to pause before we look ahead and turn it over to Jessica to present the plans.
Okay, do you have the plans on there?
I don't. Oh,
You do or don't?
I don't. Do you want to swap computers?
I might need a second.
Okay, sorry.
We are going to talk through the plans. So I think one thing that Michelle maybe didn't get into the detail on is that FEMA grant would be for both the dam and the bridge. But our final design funding is currently only to do the final design for the dam project. There is not currently final design money for the bridge project. Just so at this point, the dam project's a little bit further ahead.
But we submitted the two together for the FEMA funding. But the bridge is, the town had DeWolf Engineering produce a conceptual design for the bridge, a preliminary design for the bridge, for the purpose of that FEMA application. But DeWolf is not continuing, whereas SLR is able to continue on the dam removal while we figure out the implementation funding.
How much money do you think FEMA will give, or you don't, that there's not a number?
Well, if the project does get approved and funded by FEMA, the application was for about $3 million
For both?
for both projects.
So can I ask what happens if FEMA money doesn't come?
Yes, if the FEMA money doesn't come, Friends of the Winooski has access to other funding because of the benefits to water quality and to fish reconnection. And the dam removal project is, I think, about 900,000. Am I remembering that right? Yeah, so the dam removal project is about 900,000.
Before FEMA? Like
That's the total
estimated cost.
total estimated cost for the dam removal. And that's quite a bit for a dam removal, but we should be able to raise that from different sources, regardless of FEMA, yes. But the bridge, it would be up to the town to fund.
That's estimated at 2.1 million. And currently, we don't have a line on any grant. We're going to continue working on that.
So what happens if the money, you get the money for the dam removal, but the town doesn't have $2 million to do the bridge? I mean, is the bridge okay?
Well, we would just have to plan the dam removal to accommodate the undersized bridge. So we would probably, have to put rock along the stream channel, narrowing it down to the width of the bridge to stabilize those banks as it goes into the bridge. And then the expectation would be that when the bridge was replaced, they would do that section of channel to open it.
If the bridge is replaced.
It has to
If
be
the bridge is
replaced.
replaced. Right now, if I'm not mistaken, there's not enough, the size of the bridge that will not take the volume of that stream if it is in a big,
I mean,
What?
it doesn't take it now.
It doesn't take it now,
really,
but will not take
it
it
doesn't
even-
really matter about
Does
the
taking the
dam.
dam down, however, increase the risk to the existing bridge if it isn't funded and replaced soon?
We think that it decreases the risk to the bridge. So taking out the dam decreases the risk to the bridge because the same amount of water is going to come over the dam, whether it's there or not. So the same amount of water is getting to the bridge. But if the dam fails and all of that sediment is automatic and a flood wave comes, your bridge is going to almost definitely be washed out. So by avoiding that dam failure scenario, you're much less risk for the bridge.
Let's go through
So
the
maybe just go to
plans.
there's not much on the title page. So we have this color coded, so it's a little bit easier to see. A lot of these engineering plans are a little hard to tell what all the different lines are. This is the bridge we were just talking about here on the Moscow Woods Road with the dam being right here. You can see Steve's house and the mill building and Route 14. So the water's coming from up near the rec field, which is off the page, comes around the blue, kind of spreads out into the pond, or we'd call it an impoundment sometimes, and then over the dam. So this is just existing conditions, just to give you a orientation to the site here. So the next page shows what our ideas are. And, as Michelle said, we're only partway through the design process right now. So there's still room for adjustment and input. And that's why we're here presenting the plan, so we can make sure we're kind of getting all the information we need to make this a final plan. So this is zoomed in. So now we still have Moscow Woods Road. The dam is shown in the darker color there. And you can really see what we were talking about. The bridge right now is only 17 feet wide. And based on our stream analysis, Roy and I are not only engineers, but we also are river scientists and do a lot of work understanding rivers and how they work, the geomorphology of them. So based on the river, it should really be more than 40 feet wide here to really accommodate the river. And you can kind of see that if you stand near the bridge and look downstream at how wide the river is. That's really like the goal, to be able to have the river kind of come through this area without having to squeeze down here and without having to squeeze down even more at the bridge. So you can start to see it widen out down below. So the blue's still the river. Michelle had showed the photo where there was all the erosion at the dam. There was a temporary fix. You can kind of see it with this blocky hatch there. That's where there was a kind of emergency fix where rock was put in there, so you can't see right now that water coming under the dam and through the dam because there's rock stuck in there to kind of hold everything in place temporarily until a more permanent solution is coming. So this is still existing conditions.
Do you want to speak to the dam safety situation?
Yeah, so, and this is really important. We've talked with the state dam safety engineers who regulate dams. Any work on this dam or other kind of larger dams in the state requires a permit called a dam order from the dam safety program. The dam safety program also helps by responding to emergency situations, which they did after all the erosion happened here. And they told us that they gave kind of a temporary permit to put this rock in place here just so the whole thing didn't fall down until there was an engineered solution by dam engineers like Roy and I to come up with a plan that could get like a permanent solution dam order. So
Why wouldn't just piling up more rocks work the way it did at Curtis Pond for us to hold the dam?
So in order to do the permanent solution, we would need to bring the whole structure up to the current dam safety guidelines and rules.
Why
So
wouldn't just piling up rocks?
yeah, so piling up
Dam from
rocks
failing.
does not work according to the safety guidelines and rules of the state. You can actually see water coming like through the dam and under the dam here. So, a full solution would really mean fully redesigning the dam and getting it actually founded down into the ground or down far enough that it's on bedrock to really make sure that the water can't go under it or through it or around it. And that's a very, very expensive process. So,
But why wouldn't just piling up more rocks hold it for enough time?
well, I think
for our lifetime?
the enough time is really the kicker there. I think we have the dam rules in place to make sure that we have a solid structure that engineers who do geotechnical analysis and structural analysis can really get behind.
Well,
And
that's the perfect,
yeah.
but
We're we're required to do the perfect.
Yeah.
I think John and Megan are actually required by the dam safety rules as the owners to do the perfect. There's no.
So I have to do the perfect, I can't just take a bunch, I would be great to put a bunch of rocks there, Scott, but technically, engineer-wise, you just can't throw a bunch of rocks there. You have to take it out, rebuild it. You think that bridge is $2 million? To do that dam, probably be $3 or $4 million to do it right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think the rock thing really flies.
And also, when you do the studies for the 100-year flood or whatever, that wouldn't hold, would it? I mean, that temporary riprap wouldn't hold for that, so we can't, that's not an option.
This dam is classified as a significant hazard. It would cause a lot of damage if it failed.
But it was not a significant hazard. It was a
Low.
low hazard.
And it's upgraded because
And
of the road.
they upgraded it afterwards because of the bridge down at
Yeah.
214.
And just to follow on this thread, the design flood for a significant hazard dam in the state is the 1,000-year flood. It's not the 100-year flood, or it's really different. The dam safety rules are way more conservative. So when the new rules to redesign this dam, you probably have to lower the dam halfway, which is most of the, you'd be seeing a lot of sediment sitting there. And then you'd have to build it to handle the flood of the 1,000-year flood, which is a huge flood coming through there.
well, I'm not
So-
going to be alive when the 1,000 years comes.
Yeah.
And what
Well-
mainly concerns me is still having a pond there. And
Yeah, but Scott, don't forget, you're not going to be around, but there's going to be other people around. So
yeah,
you might want to think about that.
Have you done any research on what is in the dam below the water grade now, below the sediment grade?
Yeah, should we
Yeah,
keep going?
so well, let's keep going because I think we actually have some of that on these next couple sheets. So now that we're zoomed back out, and I'm going to answer your question on the next couple slides. So essentially, the idea would be that where the dam currently is now, actually, you want to go to the next slide? I think it might be easier to see in the zoom in. So this is zoomed into the dam. So the idea would be to leave a small portion of the dam on both sides to keep the sides stabilized, and have the new river channel, the appropriate width, all the way down through so that it would pass through the right-sized bridge, and have new rock kind of along both sides so that, as water comes down, it can use the wider width and not erode into, the land on either side. In the case that the bridge has not been redone yet, this part would be redrawn and re-engineered so that you'd have, a safe way for the water to get into the current bridge. So this part is going to depend on exactly what's going on with the bridge in the moment. And so the whole middle part of the dam would be removed down to bedrock, or the hard pan that's there. And we have done sediment probing up in the impoundment. So we went out in a canoe and used probes to pound the metal down and see how deep it goes and get a feel for the type of sediment that's there and how deep it is. We are showing in this kind of crosshatch with the little squares there, the area where the land would be drained, and then that sediment would be dug out, so it would be dug down to create some just floodplain vegetated land on both sides of the river.
I guess my question was based on, my ancestors were the ones that drained it in 1914 and rebuilt it. And some of the data we've got in the pictures show significant cement below water grade, below. I mean, you're going to hit, not bedrock, you're going to find some pretty substantial cement.
Okay, well, it would be great to see whatever information you have and make sure we're estimating it correctly.
Yeah, we've got some blueprints too.
That would be great.
That would be helpful.
That would be helpful, because it's hard to know, you're right, how exactly wide it is.
It wasn't so much the width, it was the
and
depth that went down, because the study was done at the time to actually increase the height of the dam, because it was both a sawmill and the gristmill it was powering, and the flow out of Woodbury Lake, out of Sabin, was part of the water rights at the time.
Yeah.
And he was going to increase the water flow out of Woodbury Lake and raise the level of this pond. They put in substantial amount of concrete from an outfit out of Boston.
That would be great to see those plans. We don't always get that luxury of seeing plans, because a lot of these dams are so old, there's no...
We're not sure exactly how much they actually did. We just said that we know what the plans look like.
Yeah.
And some of the photographs.
And I think that those two are really helpful, and then based also on what we're able to see and kind of probe down with our rods, it's helpful to be able to look at all of it together.
We may find blasting, maybe do a little more to disrupt this data.
Yeah, that sounds great. So I guess then if we move to the zoom out.
Just one thought. If you could maybe just show the bridge with the existing bridge width with your fingers, and then the proposed width.
So that's the existing bridge, it's 17 feet. And this is the proposed bridge, which is 43 feet.
And that proposed bridge is sized to the state standard for bridge and culvert widths to match the channel, just to show.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
So if that isn't done and you do all that work, you're going to have a venturi there. It's going to create a huge amounts of pressure beyond the dam, beyond the bridge, sort of like a carburetor. You're going to, that water's going to be flying through that. And it's also going to be holding it back. So the bridge kind of needs to be done with the
We would
dam,
like it to
right?
be done.
Yeah, ideally the two get done together, and the thing you kind of said, what happens, the bridge pushes water back in a flood and creates a higher flood level behind the dam, as it does right now. So there's a higher flood level next to the mill, to the dam, and then the flood level is even higher because of the dam. So ideally, if you wanted to create the safest scenario, you open the bridge up and drop the dam down, and now you have the most flood storage you could have in this spot.
Right.
And then the other thing you said, the water does have to squeeze down, and as you squeeze water, it goes faster. And that's why you're having to put so much rock and keep fortifying the bridge, because even now water jets through that bridge and it causes scour. So this is prone to scour because of the narrowness of the structure. There aren't many bridges in the state that are this size. Like, there are tons of culverts that are let me just,
43%.
43% the channel width.
Or 40.
We see a lot of culverts, 25, 50%. If you go around after a big flood, almost every culvert that fails is less than half the channel width because they just can't handle the water. Most of the bridges are bigger around the state. This is a unique, very small bridge in the state, so it really needs to be.
You're linking
But
the bridge
to be
primarily
clear-
towards Route 14?
To be clear, the bridge situation is already bad.
Yeah.
So, and we will do what we can to work with what's there one way or another.
Has to.
Yeah.
It's the only place you can go with it. Take out Steve's help.
Yeah, you can see that there's a little bit of movement in this direction, but it is mostly.
Okay. Well, let's go to the zoom out. So, you know, we had just been looking at just the area right around the dam itself, but what we're seeing from our sediment probing, you know, going around in the pond and like poking down and seeing how deep the dirt and sediment, we call it sediment, in the impoundment is that if we just took the dam out and drained it, there would be, you know, basically large amount of mud. And the channel would be down deep with high banks of mud, kind of similar to what Michelle showed at that Cabot example earlier. So we don't want that to happen. So our design includes digging out the sediment, the extra sediment, and that's all of this crosshatch where it has the little squares all the way up through to here. So you can see where the different houses are along here. You can see where there's been erosion along Route 14. So we would be putting new rock along Route 14, moving the channel over so it's a little more centered, and digging down all of that extra dirt and sediment that's been kind of filling in the pond over time. And I'm sure a lot of you have actually seen that happening, where the pond used to look deeper and now it's shallow, and there's actually some spots where you're actually seeing that mud on the surface. So that's what we're talking about digging out.
In your probing, how deep did you go, and did you hit hard?
We did in some spots, and we can show you on, it might make sense to just flip to the profile. I think it's the next two sheets back. So I know this is a little hard to see, but we do have, here's the bridge and the dam and the existing dirt. So all the dirt is shown in this gray shaded color. You know, so this is the existing channel that you can see in downstream of the dam. And then this purple line is where we think the bottom of the channel would be through what's the current pond. So the top of this gray, there's kind of like a purple dash line. That's the top of the dirt, the sediment in the impoundment right now. And then the thickness of that gray is the sediment we think needs to be dug out.
What happens to the sediment when you dig it out? Where does that get placed? Somewhere else? What happens to it?
That is a good, does anybody have, I'm going to show you in a second. Does anybody have a question about the profile before?
How deep was that mud?
The mud varies. So these blocks are 5 feet. So, you know, in a lot of spots it's 5 feet, and some spots it's even deeper on the sides. So it varies.
Have you a toxic concern? Have you tested that?
We have tested the sediment, and there's not a toxic concern. It's considered clean by the sediment, the soil testing standards at the state.
Jessica, like the probing, like it was a lot of bedrock right around the dam.
Yeah.
Hard stuff.
May not be bedrock.
May not be bedrock.
Hard stuff.
We thought we saw some, and then it turned into like gravelly, like it changed as you moved up. The bottom, like it didn't have a ping, it had a crunch to it.
And as we got towards the top, it was significantly softer and kind of seemed a little bit more like the soils you actually see upstream, like beyond the rec fields, where it is kind of more wetland soils. You don't expect to see a lot of like hard bottom.
Did you do a title search?
We're working on that.
So let's get back to that. Let's go back to the big zoom out plan.
What about the flood levels? This is a really good
That's
visual.
what I got. This is my paper I just got. So We have, one thing we did not say is we have a hydraulic model we've created of the river to understand the velocities, the depth of water, the extent of water for different floods. So what you're seeing on here in these blue lines is some of the flood water surface elevations, like how high the water is at different points. So the one that I really want to point out is this top darker blue line is where the 100-year flood is right now. And when we take out the dam, it's way down here. So at the dam itself, our modeling shows that the water surface is going to drop 10 feet for that flood, 10.4 feet. And that kind of varies as you go up, and eventually up in the vicinity of like the rec fields, you have a pretty similar flood level to what we have now. What's not shown on here is well, I guess it is actually shown. We're also showing here what happens if we replace the bridge. And you can see this blue line coming down here. So that's 4.5 feet that the bridge itself is like holding back 4.5 feet of flood water in between there. So that gets back to what you were saying, John, like this benefit you're not really gonna see until the bridge is out, but this benefit up here you are gonna see even with just the dam. What you would do is connect this blue line back to this blue line in the meantime. So there'd still be quite a bit of flood benefit upstream of the dam. But until the bridge is done, it's going to be the same around the bridge.
What sort of channel would that lower depth be inside? Would that increase the velocity?
It does increase the velocity in the impoundment, yes. But we're also providing a wider channel, that 40-foot channel, and the adjacent vegetated areas to really help slow down the water. So it's going to be moving through, but it's going to be more like a regular river rather than just like a pond.
Which slide did you want?
So I think the zoom out to see where the sediment's going to go.
Okay.
So our idea right now with the sediment is it would be really great to not have to truck it all away and find a different spot to put it, because that's very expensive, and there's a lot of impacts with trucking. You'd be hearing it and seeing it and using gas and all the things that go along with trucking. So what we're hoping to do and hoping to get permission to do is to move it over here. In this kind of darker area. It's still within the footprint of the current ponded area, but that area would just be piled up. So the land that's really high up here would just be extended out and then sloped down.
It's lower in there now.
Yeah, it's currently low in there now, and there's kind of a steep drop off from the upper land down into the pond in that area. And then that would be vegetated. It wouldn't be just like a big pile of dirt. It would be.
When you say vegetation, is it lawn? Do you mow it? Do you put bushes in there, native species?
So that's going to vary over the whole area. So probably a lot closer to the river channel, it'll be native trees and shrubs. And then as we move out from the river channel, there's more flexibility in what we can put there. But to some extent, that is going to get determined through the permitting process and through the deed situation, which I guess I could talk about. So on the town of Calais parcel map, the pond is a parcel, and it is considered waters of the state. So the pond belongs to the state of Vermont. But we don't know what happens when it's when the waters of the state turn from a pond to a river, because it hasn't come up very often. And there's another project now called Austin Pond in Rutland County that's a little bit ahead of us in sorting through this question. But apparently, and I did not understand this when we started out on this project, this is a very specialized area of real estate law that maybe has some unanswered questions, and so the state and the Nature Conservancy are working on that Austin Pond project, and I think the town has their attorneys working on all of the deeds around the pond here to get the specific language as to what each of those deeds says about the boundary. And then, so essentially, we're working on figuring that out, but we don't yet know the answer to who's going to
Whether or not
own.
it goes to the state or whether or not it gets to the, kicked to the
Right,
It's a river,
Right.
you own up to the river. And if the river moves, your property moves.
well, that's one theory,
Sometimes,
but
Well,
some,
that's what I've been told. I mean,
it's
I've heard that too.
sometimes,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's, so we've seen both in different situations. Sometimes the way the deeds are written is it's up to the river in the moment in time, and sometimes it's up to the river at the time the deed was written. So it does vary depending on the language, and I think that's why Michelle is, and the town are,
and
working on it.
state and, yeah.
That answer, we don't know that answer bit for a bit.
Did they get anywhere last week?
No.
No.
No, it just has turned out to be far more complex a question than we anticipated.
What happened with the one in
but-
Wicked Cove? Because I'm familiar with that pond. Did that revert to the previous owners?
Well, the thing about that one, and this is often the case, is that the whole impoundment was contained on the one property. So the dam was, the owners owned 30 acres on either side and the full extent of the impoundment.
But does
So,
the state own it? Land, even though it's one owner, it doesn't matter.
well, also there was no pond there because the dam had breached before and had been reduced to just a river. So there wasn't a ponded kind of situation there.
So we don't know that yet. So, and we're also not done with the design. So those are two things that are both in the works.
Yeah.
There's gonna be another meeting.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. that'll be-
Well, and particularly with, directly affected landowners like Brian and Linda and Steve will surely have to meet one-on-one at some point, so.
I think it's important to mention, like, a big part of these plans that we haven't gotten to yet is, like, there's a design for what happens on the land, and that's usually done with adjacent landowners or others involved, or towns, like different styles of plantings, different things in the floodplain, trails we've done, various levels of access. So there's a lot to kind of figure out. It's never really done in a vacuum. Like, I think we would all meet with you and talk, or the people who own the land. So it's part of the process.
How long do you anticipate the process of the drying out, planting, stabilizing, so that if you have another 100-year flood in a couple of years, we seem to have July's kind of.
Yeah, July's a scary month now.
How long do some of your other projects?
Yeah, so we've got a lot of history on rivers like the Brant Kingsbury. It's usually like within the first year, like you see everything's kind of greened up, the river stabilizes. Second year it gets really green. Like the third year you kind of don't know there was a dam there. It's like as it comes back. So in this kind of river system, sometimes on a finer grain, flatter system, it takes a little bit longer.
Yeah. Like
don't know if
we,
you wanna add.
like for example, I guess what I would say is the construction process where you have the machines out there digging around and actively working on it is typically just maybe 2 months or maybe 3 months potentially if you have a smaller crew. But it's typically just one summer, and it has to be between July 1 and October 1 of a particular year.
Everything gets done in 2 months.
So yes, so everything would get done in 2 months, and like it would be up to us to like hire somebody who could handle the job and do it in that construction window, because that's all the time they're given by the permits. So that's the one thing. So that would be like the active disruption. And then we did a project, for example, last summer, and that project finished, and they put the seed down the first week of October, and we went back in, we went back last month, and looking at it, it was completely green, and you had the nice river. When you looked closer, when you walked out there and looked down, some of it was a little sparse, like some of it maybe only had 50% when you look straight down. So you'd see some of the like dirt still shown, but when you look at it, the whole thing looks green. So that's just like one example of one that got done last fall, and like it's still growing new vegetation, but it like from the view, like it's not stinky or muddy or brown.
To raise the money, it's gonna take 2 years?
No. I mean, if we thought that we could be ready for construction next year, we could have the money
That's a lot of money.
in time. Yes.
Definitely not the bridge. Probably more about the permits than the money.
Just for the dam. It is much more about the permits than the money, yes.
So it's the dam funding we have, we're comfortable. The bridge.
Because they have way more resources they're pulling from than the town.
Yeah. Right.
The funding sources are different just in general. There's a lot of risk associated with a dam breaking, more so than just the bridge falling out. Like, you know, the bridge isn't washing down and smashing into other properties, and so there, I think that's partially why there's maybe a little more money for one than the other.
Does the
Plays
power
into it.
authority have any say in this at all? So the power generation that Houghton Kate has in place now is leaving, but I mean, they have no jurisdiction
There is no power generation at this dam,
at this time.
Yeah.
right.
So
I
as you
could
know,
make that change really quickly.
I know. Get the boards out there.
so as you know, the bridge is kind of failing now. And if this happened, but the bridge wasn't fixed, would it be worse or not as bad as it is now?
I believe not as bad as it is now. There's less to fail.
The overall risk is lowered.
Yeah.
Didn't they just put a bunch of supports under there?
Mhm.
And there's a platform down there now made out of plywood, right? Sitting over the water.
Do you want to look at these or not?
Do you want to go to the photo sim?
It's
It's
like
another
what?
file.
Oh, yeah.
If there was water coming over that dam like it was,
Yeah.
and that thing flipped up,
That'd be problematic.
that'd be, so why don't they move that then?
You said the dam is, I mean, the bridge is
We need to zoom
in
out.
poor shape. Is the state making that assessment? And what authority is doing that?
That's
State
a,
Agency of Transportation?
that's a question for Corey.
I'm not sure about the state, but DeWolf Engineering has been recommending replacement for over 10 years. And we did put in temporary supports for this year that they estimated gave us another 5 years at least. But there's risk, right? If we get one of these massive events, you know, that bridge is at risk.
I think there's a reason there's so few of these smaller bridges left, and it's because they've been washing out in different storms. So, I mean, part of it is just the bridge isn't in good condition to begin with, but there's also the fact that it's so small and it could have like an erosion flood event that could wash it out, even if it was in good condition, because it's so little.
I mean, the Mill Street Bridge in Plainfield, like, that bridge was so robust, the concrete had to be 2 feet thick. It's hard to believe that that bridge got washed out, last year, it was 24.
And even the Creamery Street Bridge, or Brook Road Bridge.
Brook Road, yeah.
Brook Road Bridge didn't wash out.
Yeah.
It is still there. That is a little tiny tank of a bridge, but what the river did was cut right through the land on the side.
It just went around it.
And that is live, I think, a decent possibility for this
Yeah.
bridge, is that the water would go through the road instead of under the bridge, or in addition.
So this is a view many of you are probably pretty familiar with, just a photo from the bridge out there right now. And what we did was we used our hydraulic modeling and our understanding of what's out there, what we think it'll look like, and our design, and got help from one of our landscape architects to change the photo to what we think it's going to look like after the dam's out. So if you kind of look in a particular spot, like maybe at the dam itself or at the little building, and then Roy's going to flip to the next photo, the one we think it is. So you can see a couple of things. One is the river's wider. So if you kind of maybe look at the river width and then Roy flips back, you can kind of see it's wider to just accommodate more water. The dam itself isn't there and the land behind it's lower. We're showing more rock along both sides that you can see. It doesn't look a lot different. We try to get some plantings on top of the rock so it's not just rock. And like up in the impoundment, you can see there's maybe some vegetation. Looks like a new tree and some meadow area is shown here. So these are just kind of to just help visualize. I think it's hard for a lot of us to think about what something looks like when something's not there anymore. And we've found that oftentimes these photosims are really, really close to what it looks like after the fact. We've been doing this for, at least 15 years over many dams, and it's been really neat to see kind of the before and the after and the photosim kind of lined up. We're like, oh, wow. So, it's probably not perfect, but it's probably pretty close.
Would there be mud? It shows water on the other side of the dam. Would that actually be mud?
Well, I think right during construction for that summer, it's probably going to be kind of muddy up in here. But within that first 6 months to a year, you're going to see vegetation there.
What's the width of the water? I guess you could call it a river.
It will be the Kingsbury branch, just continuing up.
So is there any thought of controlling the outflow of Sabin Pond?
It's 43 feet, just to answer that question while we're seeing it.
And that's going to be all water?
It's not going to be all water every day. That's going to be, if you have a big thunderstorm and, you think about the river kind of getting full but not flooding, that's when it would be that wide. On a,
That picture is showing?
yeah, like on a regular, no, the picture's shown a little narrower because we're not at like full river condition. If you think about, maybe if you look downstream of the dam on a regular day, it's maybe not quite as wide. If you look over on like a thunderstorm day, it's wider, so.
Yeah, normally the normal flow channel could be half the width, and then it has a shelf and it will expand out.
But that enhanced, expanded width is based on the bridge being replaced, right?
It's based on what we would construct the channel. You're right. If the bridge isn't replaced here, it would be different, kind of in this range. But it would be the same as it's shown up further.
Like you would,
That's full.
This assumes the
bridge.
bridge is replaced.
right, so you would see that.
So if
When it's full.
But when it's thunderstorm?
Like-
Yeah, after thunderstorm.
if the bridge isn't replaced, this would be more rock in this area.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good-
it would be more rock over here.
Like right now, on, would be on.
yeah.
So I know there are tributaries that contribute to the flow,
Thank you so
but-
much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming. Good night.
but there is no control of the outflow of stable pond.
I don't believe that dam has an outflow control. It throttles water back and has a spillway size that ultimately regulates what comes out of the dam. But all these dams they're called run-of-river dams. So every drop of water that enters the back of the pond here eventually comes over the spillway, and there's no way to control those. That's the way most of the dams work in our state, except for like Wrightsville. That has a throttle and an outlet gate and a big space to store water. These run-of-river dams are smaller, and they really just elevate the water level, so when the flood comes, everything goes on top of them.
So I think, Michelle, did you have anything else that was like a formal presentation? So we went through the plans, where we're at, and the photo sim, so we're open to questions. Do you want to go ahead, Bob?
You should have the drawings up. What about water supply for the dry hydrant?
Yes, that is part of what I meant to tell you. So right now there is a dry hydrant here with a pipe that comes out into the pond. This is part of the second half of our design. We know we need to accommodate it. We're not entirely sure if it would continue to be in this spot or if it makes more sense to get it a little closer to the bridge. So I think that we are open to feedback from you and the fire district about, like, do you really want to try to keep it back up here, or is somewhere close to the bridge acceptable?
I think your consultant there is East Montpelier and Woodbury Fire Departments.
Yeah.
You consult with them as to what's going to work for them, that will
Yeah.
help refine your design.
And the
We
reason
have been talking with the Woodbury Fire Department, just so you know.
Hopefully you're including East Montpelier as well.
We have not yet,
Is this-
but Woodbury has been very interested in making sure that this continues, so,
East Montpelier is also part of the service here.
okay.
Okay, that's good feedback.
Yeah.
And that's part of why we didn't just stick one on here and say this is the spot. We wanted to really make sure we were getting feedback. And we know it's something that's not finalized yet.
And other dam removal projects have dealt with this issue before. It's not unusual to have a dry hydrant in an impoundment behind a dam, so there are solutions. And
Yeah, it's pretty common. And a lot of the solutions that we've done have wound up at a bridge because there's a nice hard thing to attach the intakes to. So that's why I said it might wind up in a different spot with feedback. So, yeah.
Not sure that where it is matters, as long as it's functional.
Yeah. Any other questions?
We have to get going, but
Yeah.
can we watch the rest of this meeting? I don't know who's recording it or how.
Orca is recording it. Yeah.
Orcamedia.net. Be posted in a couple days or something?
Okay, because I'm interested, we just can't stay.
Yeah, orcamedia.net.
Okay,
Working.
Yeah.
thank you.
Could I also get a card so I can send you those prints?
I don't have one. They're in the car.
And we can also turn the light back on if
Yeah.
people,
You want to do that?
yeah, flick just at least one of them. The back one.
Thank you very much.
It's been really interesting.
Oh, good. Were you able to see well enough?
What? Oh, yeah,
you-
I saw
okay.
fine, thank you.
Good.
Question, though, what about the creatures that are in the pond now? I mean, they're just gonna kind of flow out with everything?
Some, It's a mix. So if they, it depends on what they are. Birds will typically just move.
I have some
Beavers, if you had beavers or otters, they would typically just move upstream, typically upstream. Fish will typically just also swim through.
I did bring
Turtles,
some
we
stickers
sometimes
for
actually,
folks
if we
you
see
want.
them, we move them. We ourselves would move them. So it is a mix.
Huh.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating. I mean, I'm sort of, the part of it's really attached to the pond, but I see how it's going to change, and ecologically, it's fascinating. It's just,
It will be different, but also ecologically really neat.
Right.
So
I think that's really cool. Thank you.
Julie and I know where we walk, there's quite a lot of beaver activity.
Yeah.
They seem to come wherever there's,
Where you are, where you live.
a lot of beavers. What are the odds of beavers being in here when there's a lot of running water?
I think it could happen. I mean, we've seen some beaver activity upstream. I think that's a possibility. They like streams, so that are
Do
moving.
you allow that to happen?
It's really up to the beavers, though.
We have no control over the beavers.
All right.
I would say that on our Camp Weakawi project in Northfield, there were beavers on the site before the project, and they have not come back in the 5 years since we've done the project. So that particular beaver family moved somewhere else, and
Well, they send out two
so.
youngsters every year to start a new dam somewhere else. Pretty.
Do you have a question?
I just wanted to confirm. I thought I heard you say earlier in the presentation that the velocity of the water upstream in the winding channel wouldn't really change.
When you get far enough up that you're not in the impoundment, that's true.
Okay. So that would stimulate beavers.
Sort of where it's a river up above the impoundment and where it's a river down below the bridge, those are going to stay the same, and then the new section of river will fill in between. But of course, the section of river that fills in between from here to here will move faster than this does because it's not moving very fast. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And other questions? We don't need to go right this second. So.
Did I take somebody's water bottle? Because I have a water bottle just like this that I left here. And I don't know if, just want to make sure I'm not taking yours. Somebody else's. Okay.
If I'm gonna pay, you're gonna eat my deductible?
Yeah, it's the only year that obviously.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, I'm not hearing any more questions, so I don't know. Thanks so much for coming, everyone.